The Sundance Film Festival is a starting point for what often turns out to be some of the year's most notable films. Hits such as Reservoir Dogs, Memento, Precious, Napoleon Dynamite, and Beasts of the Southern Wild, they all got their start as featured screenings at that festival. One or two of the films that screen usually end up making it to the Academy Awards. For the record, I'm not a fan of the Oscars. I really find them to be a pretentious ceremony where a lot of undeserving films are handed awards based on the social politics of their voters. But you know what, as we get closer to this Oscar race, I'll go ahead and detail those feelings in another video. Today, I strictly want to talk about this film called Whiplash. This film was actually a big winner at the Sundance Film Festival this year. It took home the Grand Jury Prize, which is the most coveted award any filmmaker aims to achieve when they give their films to Sundance. It was directed by first-time filmmaker Damien Chazelle. Before this, he was predominantly a writer for hire in the industry. He wrote The Last Exorcism Part 2 and a pretty unknown thriller called Grand Piano starring Elijah Wood. Him writing Whiplash was actually a response to his situation in the industry, and he wanted to direct something he wrote, so this was the result. The film stars Miles Teller as a young student named Andrew Neiman attending a prestigious music conservatory with hopes of becoming a professional jazz drummer. When he's recruited by a controversial perfectionist instructor, his life gets flipped into borderline madness. Teller is very much a rising talent in the industry these days. His first notable appearance was in the overlooked 2010 feature Rabbit Hole. Last year, he made a name for himself with the indie darling The Spectacular Now, and since then, he's broken into more mainstream roles such as the Footloose remake, the rom-com That Awkward Moment, and the young adult hit Divergent. Next year, he's going to be the new Mr. Fantastic in Marvel's Fantastic Four reboot. Teller carries the film wonderfully. He embodies the pressured and ambitious student precisely, and he really makes you buy into his situation as a viewer. You really feel for this kid. The feats at which he is willing to go to realize his dream are heartbreaking and at times discomforting. Not necessarily in a disturbing sense, but one where you realize that he values satisfying his instructor even if it means sacrificing his well-being. The very talented and recognizable J.K. Simmons plays Terrence Fletcher, the maddening teacher. This guy's casting was perfect. Simmons has really made a name for himself throughout his 28-year career. Some notable roles include Law & Order, Oz, Thank You for Smoking, Juno, and Up in the Air. His transformation into Fletcher was admirable to say the least. This is a very dynamic character who is often an unlikable human being, but he's so determined to recognize students with true talent. The chemistry between Teller and Simmons is certainly there. They play off each other so well, and their talents are utilized to their full potential, which ironically matches one of the film's central themes of realizing how talented you really are. In his part, Simmons is intense and menacing, and often his presence on screen can make the viewer feel uncomfortable. The way he carries himself is commanding and domineering, and he never lets off. You feel the need to hate this guy, but you also recognize his deepest of intentions. At the end of the day, though, he always lives by a cross me and I'll bring you down mentality. Damien Chazelle's direction is masterful and glorious. He has a sharp eye for cinematic quality and manages to give so much technical and artistic wonder to a film that predominantly looks to focus on its actors. Its editing flows together like the jazz music the film features, and the climactic scene will exude such a sense of victory for the viewer. I was never bored during this film, and I can really see what all the praise is about. It's an almost perfect film. From the acting, to the use of lighting, to a meticulous editing job, I never once found myself distracted or waiting for the film to end. Every moment felt necessary, and you really become involved with the story. This is surely destined to be on many critics' year-end lists, including my own. It's one of the year's best films, and an Oscar nod for Simmons is inevitable. I strongly urge everyone to go see it, and I feel it has such a universal audience appeal. It's one of those stories that takes you on such a ride where you feel so many different emotions, and ultimately, you find a purpose to root for its central character. This is a golden moment for J.K. Simmons, and definitely a major stepping stone for the career of the talented Miles Teller.